Stop everything right now because what I'm about to expose is one of the most blatant examples of pay-to-play corruption in modern American politics. President Trump just threatened to block a publicly owned bridge between the United States and Canada, and it turns out this decision came just hours after his Commerce Secretary met with a billionaire who owns the competing bridge and has donated over $605,000 to Trump and the Republican Party. Number 1. Matthew Moroun met with Commerce Secretary Howe on the morning of February 10th in Washington, D.C. Lutnick immediately called Trump, and that same afternoon Trump posted his threat to block the Gordie Howe International Bridge on Truth Social. Number 2. Lutnick's lobbying firm Ballard Partners that worked for Moroun was previously run by Trump's Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and get this, Attorney General Pam Bondi was literally Moroun's lobbyist in 2021 before becoming AG. And number 3, a congressional investigation just launched by ranking member Robert Garcia is demanding all communications between the Moroun family and the Trump administration because this reeks of oligarchy and bribery. Right now, Democrats are calling this flatly unacceptable and undeniably corrupt. Former Republican Governor Rick Snyder said the only big winner from Trump's threats is the Moroun family, and even Trump's own allies can't explain why the president is trying to kill a bridge that America already owns half of. This is corruption at the highest levels. This is billionaire donors literally buying government policy, and you need to understand every detail of this scandal because it gets absolutely insane. Stay with me. Let me walk you through exactly what happened because the timeline is damning. The Gordie Howe International Bridge is a massive infrastructure project that's been under construction for years, connecting Detroit, Michigan with Windsor, Ontario. Canada paid for the entire construction using American steel and American workers, and the bridge is jointly owned by Canada and the state of Michigan. Trump himself praised this bridge back in 2017, calling it a vital economic link between our two countries during a joint statement with then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The bridge was set to open in early 2026, creating thousands of jobs and relieving congestion on the existing crossing. But here's the problem for one particular billionaire family. The Morouns have owned and operated the Ambassador Bridge, the nearly 100-year-old private bridge that currently connects Detroit and Windsor, for decades. They've had a complete monopoly on commercial truck toll revenue in the area, making them hundreds of millions of dollars. And they've spent years and millions of dollars fighting to stop the Gordie Howe Bridge from ever opening, because once it does, their monopoly ends and their toll revenue plummets. So on Monday morning, February 9th, 2026, Matthew Moroun, who's the chairman of the Detroit International Bridge Company and the primary manager of the Ambassador Bridge, traveled to Washington, D.C. and met with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. The New York Times reported this meeting happened in the morning. According to multiple sources, Lutnick and Moroun discussed the Gordie Howe Bridge, and immediately after the meeting, Lutnick called President Trump. And then, just hours later that same afternoon, Trump took to Truth Social and posted this explosive threat. Trump wrote, and I'm paraphrasing because he rambled, that the Gordie Howe Bridge permit needs to be renegotiated, that the United States should get at least half of the bridge even though Canada paid for all of it, and that America should receive a cut of the toll revenue. He threatened that unless Canada agrees to these demands, the bridge won't open. Think about how insane that is. A bridge that was already agreed to, that's already built, that America already jointly owns, suddenly needs to be renegotiated hours after Trump's Commerce Secretary meets with the guy who owns the competing bridge. Now let's talk about Matthew Moroun's financial relationship with Donald Trump because it's extensive. Campaign finance records show that since 2019, Moroun has donated more than $605,000 to Trump's campaign and Trump Victory, which is a joint fundraising committee for Trump's campaign and the Republican National Committee. Federal disclosures show he donated $600,000 to the Trump Victory fundraising committee across 2019 and 2020 alone. In July 2025, just a few months before the 2024 election, Moroun gave the Republican National Committee a whopping $250,000. And over the last decade, he's contributed another $60,000 to the Michigan Republican Party's federal account. But wait, it gets even more corrupt. Moroun didn't just donate to Trump, he also initially supported Ron DeSantis during the Republican primary. In 2023, Moroun gave $236,800 to Never Back Down Inc., which was the super PAC supporting DeSantis's bid for the nomination. But when DeSantis dropped out, Moroun immediately pivoted to Trump and started flooding the RNC with cash. This is a guy who knows how to play the game, who knows that access and influence cost money, and who is willing to spend whatever it takes to protect his business interests. And here's where the web of corruption gets even thicker. The lobbying firm that Moroun hired to represent his bridge company is called Ballard Partners, and it's one of the most powerful lobbying firms in Washington with deep ties to the Trump administration. The firm's Washington, D.C. office was previously led by Susie Wiles, who is now Trump's White House chief of staff. Now, Wiles doesn't appear to have worked directly on the bridge file, but the fact that Moroun hired the firm run by Trump's future chief of staff is not a coincidence. Ballard Partners first registered to lobby on behalf of Moroun's Detroit International Bridge Company back in the spring of 2018, which was right around when construction kicked off on the Gordie Howe Bridge. During Trump's first administration, the bridge company paid Ballard at least $2.8 million to lobby on transportation regulation and issues related to construction and operation of international bridges. That's more than the bridge company had ever spent in previous years on other lobbyists combined. But here's the bombshell that nobody's talking about enough. One of the Ballard lobbyists who worked on behalf of the bridge company back in 2021 was Pam Bondi, who now serves as Trump's Attorney General. That's right. The current Attorney General of the United States was literally being paid by Matthew Moroun to lobby on bridge issues just a few years ago, and now she's in a position of incredible power in the Trump administration while her former client is meeting with the Commerce Secretary to lobby against a competing bridge. You cannot make this up. The relationship between Ballard Partners and the Moroun family appeared to go dormant during the Biden administration because Biden wasn't going to help them block a bridge, but it roared back to life in August 2025, right after Trump secured the nomination. Lobbying records show Ballard updated its registration to lobby on behalf of the bridge company on August 1, 2025. Since then, the bridge company has paid Ballard $250,000 to lobby the White House, U.S. Congress, and State Department on international bridges. So let's recap the corruption web. Matthew Moroun owns a private bridge that's threatened by a new public bridge. He's donated over $605,000 to Trump and the RNC. He hired a lobbying firm run by Trump's future chief of staff. One of his lobbyists was Trump's future attorney general. He meets with Trump's Commerce Secretary in February 2026. The Commerce Secretary calls Trump, and hours later, Trump threatens to block the competing bridge. This is textbook quid pro quo. This is oligarchy. This is billionaire donors literally buying government policy to protect their business interests. But the corruption doesn't stop there. It turns out Moroun has also been buying influence at the state level in Michigan. State House Speaker Matt Howe, who's one of the most powerful Republicans in Michigan politics, has received more than $35,000 in contributions from Moroun to his campaign committee since 2019, according to campaign finance records. Hall's House Majority Fund, which supports GOP candidates in state house races, received another $35,000 from Matthew Moroun in 2022. And guess what Matt Howe said when Trump threatened the bridge? He fully supported it. Howe told the Detroit News, "I was supportive of the president's tweet. I think we need to renegotiate some of these deals with Canada, and he's the ultimate deal maker." Of course he said that. He's been on Moroun's payroll for years. Republican Congressman John James, who's now running for governor of Michigan, received $34,300 in donations from Moroun during his congressional run in 2022 and 2023. He also received $11,000 from Moroun during his Senate race in 2020, and James came out defending Trump's bridge threat. Meanwhile, Democrats and even some Republicans are horrified by what's happening. Senator Amy Klobuchar called this staggering corruption. Congresswoman Debbie Dingell held a press call where she directly blamed the Moroun family for Trump's threats. She said there was somebody who's been against this bridge from the very beginning, and when asked if she meant the Morouns, she said yes. Former Republican Governor Rick Snyder, who was in office when the bridge agreement was negotiated, came out against Trump's threats. Snyder warned that blocking the bridge would damage Michigan's economy and supply chains, and he noted that the only big winner from Trump's position would be the Moroun family. When even a Republican former governor is calling out corruption, you know it's bad. On February 11th, Ranking Member Robert Garcia from the House Oversight Committee launched a formal investigation into this corruption. Garcia sent a letter to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick demanding answers. The letter states, "It is flatly unacceptable and undeniably corrupt to allow a wealthy donor to dictate our foreign and economic policy in order to protect his personal business interests." Garcia's letter demands all communications between Matthew Moroun and any official of the Commerce Department or White House regarding the Gordie Howe Bridge. This investigation is critical because it could expose the full extent of this corrupt bargain. And here's what makes this even more outrageous. The Gordie Howe International Bridge is already built. It's done. Canada paid for the entire construction, which cost billions of dollars. They used American steel, American workers, American companies. The bridge is jointly owned by Canada and the state of Michigan, meaning America already owns half of it. Trump's demand that America should get at least half the bridge makes no sense because America already has half. His demand for toll revenue makes no sense because the toll revenue is supposed to go to Canada to pay back their construction costs. The agreement was already negotiated. It was praised by Trump himself in 2017, and now he's trying to blow it up because a billionaire donor asked him to. This is one of the clearest examples of corruption we've seen in the Trump administration, and that's saying something. The timeline is too tight to be a coincidence. The financial connections are too extensive to be ignored. Matthew Moroun paid $605,000. He met with the Commerce Secretary, and hours later he got exactly what he wanted, a presidential threat to block his competitor. Share this video everywhere because the mainstream media isn't covering this scandal with the urgency it deserves. Contact your representatives and demand they support Robert Garcia's investigation. Subscribe to this channel because I'm going to follow this story to the end and expose every detail of this corruption. This is your government being sold to the highest bidder, and we cannot let it stand. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.